Uber drivers and Lyft drivers are getting fined for using bathrooms. Well, kind of. Now, this has always been an issue when it comes to driving, and I've mentioned it in a lot of videos. I've done technique videos about using the bathroom. And you can see here that Uber and Lyft drivers are being tortured by not being able to stop and use the restroom. They're talking about NYC here, but this is true for pretty much anywhere. And I'm kind of glad this is getting some attention because it is one of those kind of odd, unspoken, annoying parts about being a driver that not a lot of people talk about. It's tough to find an effective solution, and it's a bit taboo, right? But we all go to the bathroom, right? And you can see right here that a challenge that may not occur to the average rider is how the drivers of cabs and ride-hailing services like Uber and Lyft, so this is true for taxi drivers and rideshare drivers, who work as much as 12 hours a day, can take a comfort break, right? Currently, drivers are forced to hunt for an ever-dwindling number of parking spaces for somewhere to stop before they go inside to relieve themselves. Now, I have done some videos about the best bathroom spots. In my opinion, things like gas stations, convenience stores, or maybe I'll call them department stores like Target and Walmart, grocery stores as well, just because they typically have parking lots. I think coffee chains are a bit not worth it, in my opinion. Sometimes they're tough in a major city. Hotels, sometimes you can pull aside, say to the person working there, be like, hey, I'm an Uber driver, I'm a Lyft driver, I'm working right now, I just dropped somebody off, can I use the bathroom? Usually they're pretty cool about it, right? But it's still tricky. Sometimes they say no, right? And here's a very annoying thing that taxi driver representatives are now pushing to be given special place cards that would allow them to stop briefly in spots that would otherwise be off limits, like bus lanes. Now, I will say this. Bus lanes, there's no way I think that would fly. I can see a lot of issues there. But I do kind of agree that they should get some kind of type of place card to be able to stop somewhere briefly, right? Because drivers are being tortured by not being able to stop and use the restroom when they need to, right? Going down here, we worked hard to get barbershops, restaurants, and small businesses to allow taxi drivers to use the bathroom. But when they come back out, within minutes, we know the way cities can be, they get a ticket. And now the tickets are being issued by automation. So let's say you pull over in a place that you can't park at, and you're like, hey, no, I'm just going to run inside, use the bathroom. I'm going to be 5 minutes. That's it. You can still get a ticket. Even if, let's say, a cop doesn't see you in that 5 minutes, you think you're good. You're like, oh, it's only been 5 minutes. A cop didn't see me. I'm clear. Even if you have your hazard lights on, for example, but the tickets can be issued by automation, right? In desperation, this is not surprising, some drivers have been forced to relieve themselves beside their cars, opening them up to public urination penalties. I mean, this is crazy. If you get caught relieving themselves next to your car, I mean, as we all know, it's called indecent exposure. And at that point, you could lose your license, right? And I kind of like this idea that what we're asking the city to do is issue a permit, like I said, and like they mentioned as well, that when they are using a bathroom, they can place it on the windshield and they have 10 minutes to do what they need to do and come back out. I think that's not a bad idea because trying to be able to find a bathroom in the middle of a city is difficult. This is why one big pro tip I have on this channel is do what I call bathroom addresses. When I stopped driving in Boston, I live in LA now, but when I stopped driving in Boston, I already had a notes thing on my phone, just on the notes app page, that had like 5 or 6 or 7 different bathroom addresses all around the Boston area of the best places to park. I'd even put the bathroom code, like say there was a code like 6791, for example, on this one Starbucks bathroom. I'd have that in my notes app. That way I could pull in and everything. And I made sure that all these bathroom addresses were easy to pull up to, had effective parking. I didn't have to feel sketchy about parking there. I could easily run in and out without any hassle, right? So I think that's a big thing I suggest as well to a lot of drivers because this is an issue, right? For example, this one yellow cab driver said that he would welcome the ability to stop without risking a ticket, which would wipe out an entire day's profit, right? The police give you a ticket, you have to stay in the car. If I go to the toilet, I'll get a ticket. I've had a ticket too many times. And this is a massive issue that access to restrooms for TLC drivers is fundamental to humane working conditions, an important issue that we take seriously. And I know, a bit of a weird thing to cover, a bit of a weird thing to do an entire dedicated video about, but I definitely have to, right? Because I feel like this is and has been always an ongoing issue. And like I said, that's why I've done a lot of videos. I've done videos about the best places to stop and use a bathroom. Like I mentioned, I think, in my opinion, gas stations are probably the best because there's always parking. Then grocery store chains, like anyone, like in Boston, you have like Stop and Shop and other ones. Then department stores like Walmart and Target, because there's usually parking, but not always. these are different options that I suggest, right? Coffee chains, like I said, isn't that good. Hotels are kind of like a backup and stuff like that. Sometimes if you're really desperate, maybe a restaurant, but you're really desperate if you have to go to a restaurant, because that's a little tricky, right? As you can imagine, sometimes a bar actually can be a good way to go too. Not have an option. This is why I also suggest having the bathroom mattresses on your phone, right? But going past all those techniques, it is unfortunate. It is unfortunate that I have to mention those techniques and everything because, as I mentioned at the end of this article, being able to go to the bathroom is just part of humane working conditions. It's part of being a human, and it's part of something that if there's any job out there that you felt risky about going to the bathroom, that is an immediate, glaring, aggressive red flag. And this is something that's been an issue for taxi drivers for forever. This has been an issue for Uber drivers and Lyft drivers for forever. I've had people comment on this channel that, they're like, sometimes I have to stop and go somewhere out in public, and I'm worried if I get caught. Of course, indecent exposure is not something to mess around with, of course. Or I know a lot of people have commented saying, I always have a water bottle or a bottle in my car because if I get desperate and there's nothing around me and I don't want to risk it, this is what I have to do, right? And I think having some type of permit or something like that, I think could be a good way to at least start making progress, right? Because I think this is something that every driver does have to face. And like they mentioned, this one driver mentioned, the yellow cab driver, it is a bittersweet thing. It's like, okay, do I want to stop and use a bathroom, which I have to do, or do I want to, but if I do that and I come out and I get a ticket, it pretty much nullifies an entire day's worth of work. And with ticketing getting worse, in my opinion, in most major cities, with things like automation being very, very common, where you don't even need before like a cop to see you. Like maybe you could throw your hazards on. And I think most cops are like, okay, this car is parked there, but they have their hazards on. It's kind of like saying, hey, I'll be right back. I think most cops would just let it slide. But now with automation, if you park there and a camera catches you, hazards on or not, you're getting a ticket. So I think this is a good step forward. And I'm not sure exactly if this is the right solution, I'll be honest. I think it's a good one. Is it the exact right, perfect one? Tough to say. But I do think there has to be at least some bigger conversation about this, being honest. Because we talk a lot about on this channel about the pros and cons of being a driver in terms of maintenance on your car, taxes, Uber and Lyft paying their drivers less, things like deactivation. We talk about a lot of issues with being a rideshare driver. And going to the bathroom is a really unspoken one, maybe because it's so taboo. And I think things definitely do need to change with that. Now, okay, what is the best solution? Honestly, I don't know. I think this isn't a bad one. That being said, we still have a long way to go, I think, when it comes to things being better for drivers. And I think things have slowly been getting better. And I think this is one very much so human issue that almost every driver faces that we definitely need to figure out an effective solution.